I read your name when you were strange to me, where it stood blazoned bold with many more. I passed it vacantly, and did not see any great glory in the shape it wore. O cruelty! The insight barred me then. Why did I not possess me with its sound, and in its cadence catch, and catch again, your nature's essence floating there around? Could that man be this I, unknowing you, when now the knowing you is all of me, and the old world of then is now a new, and purpose no more what it used to be, a thing of formal journey work, but due to springs that then were sealed up utterly?
Well, it's a love poem. I mean, we can feel the intensity of Hardy's feelings. It's 1867, right at the end of Hardy's time in London, and he's just completely fallen for this actress.
Yes, well, this is a long way from the frustrated puppy love that Hardy's had for the Dorset women in London. These are much more serious and strong feelings.
Well, within weeks of his ecstatic encounter with the actress, Hardy goes back to Dorset.
Leaving all his belongings in his lodgings.
Which is extraordinary, actually. And according to the official memoirs, he was ill and sort of feeling pretty grotty.
Well, that's totally inconsistent with this poem.
It so much is. And I just wonder if there was some other reason, possibly an irate husband. Mariah, this poem, To an Actress, it's a sonnet, of course. It's a form that you've worked with a lot. Your first book is composed entirely of sonnets. Just like the poems in your book, this one has this volta, this kind of change of direction in the final stanza. Just tell us a little bit how you reacted to this poem when you read it.
So it was wonderful to be back in the world of the sonnet, which is such a dynamic form. It is without a doubt one of my very favourite forms, used to wonderful effect here, I think. The first thing that jumped out to me when I read To an Actress was that, you know, Mary Frances Scott Siddons, of course, famous for playing Rosalind, Shakespearean, and yet we don't have a Shakespearean sonnet here. We don't. We have an experimental Petrarchan sonnet going on. We've got so Petrarchan sonnet is usually one verse of 8, followed by one verse of 6. But what we've got here is, with the rhyme scheme going A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, is almost half Shakespearean, half Petrarchan. We've sort of got 2 quatrains, 2 4-line verses going on, and then a finishing sestet, 6-line little verse, closing it off at the end. And as you say, the other famous feature of a sonnet is, of course, the volta, the about face, the change. One of the most tricky poetic techniques to use effectively, interestingly. That idea of about face is a little bit of misinformation, really, oversimplification perhaps. Voltas are very often quite subtle. They're a slight clarification, a deepening of emotion, a contradiction in some way. The idea of about face is perhaps a little bit too abrupt. And what I think is really interesting about this particular sonnet is the question of where the volta is. Yeah. And that penultimate line, but due, I think is really, really, really important. Poets put special words at the end of their lines because psychologically they have greater significance than any other placement within a line. So you always want important words at the end and also at the beginning. So normally you think in terms of sort of putting your strong nouns and verbs at the beginning or at the end of lines. So they'll really have impact in your readers' brains. But putting the word but due, that's quite a boring bit of language, you know, but. It's not as interesting as a strong noun or a strong verb, but the but is important because it's saying this is a poem about qualification, about complication. So it's a tiny little detail, but I think it's worth lingering on. But I think eros, the erotic, depends on frustration. The erotic moment is the moment before fulfillment. So even though, if we give a completely biographical reading of this poem, even though Hardy is now enjoying this wonderful, much freer relationship, in contrast to those more frustrating relationships in the past, I think he's using them to amp up the eroticism of the current relationship by going back to memories of them. I think he needs those memories of frustration to amp up the eroticism of the current situation, and that's why it's there, I think, at the end of the poem. It amps up the eroticism of the entire piece.
So listen again and draw your own conclusions. And then in the next video, we're going to have one final poem set in London. And then after that, we'll be following Hardy back to Dorset and in particular back to Athelhampton.
I read your name when you were strange to me, where it stood blazoned bold with many more. I passed it vacantly, and did not see any great glory in the shape it wore. Oh, cruelty! The insight barred me then. Why did I not possess me with its sound, and in its cadence catch, and catch again, your nature's essence floating there around? Could that man be this I, unknowing you, when now the knowing you is all of me, and the old world of then is now a new, and purpose no more what it used to be, a thing of formal journey work, but due to springs that then were sealed up utterly.